I may copy it, right? Copyright explained. In this copyright project, I will attempt to display major misconceptions about copyright and fair use. I will provide examples, cite laws, and provide helpful tips to aid digital learning. If this doesn't help, I strongly encourage you to check out Copyright Clarity by Renee Hobbs. Copyright a bit fuzzy for you? If you are like most educators, then you may be guilty of doing one of the following. First, you could be closing your eyes to copyright law and attempt to claim ignorance as your plea. Second, you could be breaking copyright law behind closed doors of your classroom. Or third, you could be restricted by overcompliance out of fear from guidelines misinterpreted as law. As you read this comic, you may be wondering what it is referring to. You may be questioning, what is fair use? Do I have to contact the owner of the material to be granted permission before I can use it? What does it mean for music, or anything for that matter, to be in the public domain? Hopefully this 20 by 20 presentation will provide copyright clarity and model how to apply fair use. Copyright is a set of exclusive rights regulating the use of a particular expression of an idea or information. It is literally the right to copy an original creation. These rights belong to the owner of such copyrightable works as articles, stories, journals, computer programs, pictures, graphics, and recordings. The purpose of copyright is to protect the owner's right to obtain commercial benefit from valuable work and the protection of the author's right to control how a work is used. Technology makes it simple for users to copy, share, modify, repurpose, quote from, and distribute. In turn, creators and owners of copyright material assert their right to limit, restrict, charge fees, often expensive ones, discourage use, and enforce scare tactics. Copyright law is meant to balance the rights of owners and users. The fair use exemption to copyright law was created to allow things such as commentary, parody, news reporting, research, and education, including copyright works without the permission of the author. This is vital so that copyright law doesn't block your freedom to express your own works. Instead, fair use gives you the right to appropriate others. When determining the fair use, there are 4 factors to keep in mind. First, what is the purpose and character of the original material in relation to yours? Is it transformative for nonprofit or education? Second, what is the nature of the copyrighted work? Is it published or factual? Third, how much of the original work are you using? And fourth, what effect will your work have on the potential market? Will it prevent the owner from making any money? Did you know that educators can make copies of newspaper articles, TV shows, and other copyrighted works and use them and keep them for educational use, create curriculum materials and scholarship with copyrighted materials embedded, and share, sell, and distribute curriculum materials with copyrighted materials embedded? Did you know that learners can use copyrighted works in creating new material and distribute their works digitally if they meet the transformativeness standard? Educator or creator of digital media, you shouldn't have to hire Barbie the fair use lawyer. Instead, you should keep the 4 determining factors of fair use in mind. For example, your intent and potential damage to commercial value of the original work are important considerations. One should question if you are reproducing, let's say, an article because you needed to in order to criticize the quality of the article in your own material, or because you couldn't find time to write your own story. In today's remix culture, fair use is our friend. According to Joyce Valenza, when a user of copyrighted materials adds value to or repurposes materials for use different from that for which it was originally intended, it will likely be considered transformative use. It will also likely be considered fair use. Fair use embraces the modifying of existing media content, placing it in new context. Beware of charts and graphs that contain or display copyright and fair use guidelines. Often these represent negotiated agreements between publishers or media corporations and some educational groups. Remember, they are not the law and do not have the force of the law. Exercise your right as an educator and your students' rights to fair use according to the Code of Best Practices. In Hobbs's book, an example of transformative use is given on page 44 as the court case of Bill Graham Archives versus Darlington Kindersley is described. This isn't an example of fair use in educational context. Instead, it establishes that the doctrine of fair use is not just an applicable educational and non-commercial use. It reminds us to consider the genre and purpose of the original work and the use of new material. A Utah-based photographer created a series of photos that was meant as a commentary on female objectification and consumer culture. In 1999, Mattel sued the artist for copyright, trade dress, and trademark infringement. The defense was simple. His work was a parody, a commentary on consumer culture, an inversion of the pristine Barbie image. District and appellate court judges ruled this as a classic case as fair use. Determining what is transformative and the degree of transformation is often challenging. The creation of a Harry Potter encyclopedia was determined to be slightly transformative, since the purpose was to include terms and lexicons in one volume. However, this transformative quality was not enough to justify a fair use defense, since there is extensive verbatim use of text in the Harry Potter books. As educators, there are some instances where copyright law applies and fair use does not. For example, It is legal to copy sheets designed for reproduction as student work and to embed the copies into curriculum material. However, teachers cannot copy the teaching resource and pass out copies to colleagues. Can you guess why? You've got it. This would infringe on the original owner's right to make profit. The public domain consists of works that are ineligible for copyright protection or have expired copyrights. Permission is not needed to use public domain works. Since the 1976 Copyright Act provides that copyright is automatic upon the creation of an original work, copyright protection has become automatic. Creative Commons is a way for owners to waive all their copyright and related rights in their works to the fullest extent allowed by law. As a teacher, make sure that you include attribution in your copyright and fair use lesson plan. Attribution in copyright law is the requirement to acknowledge or credit the author of a work which is used or appears in another work. Attribution is required by most copyright and copyleft licenses, such as the Creative Commons licenses. Make sure to model how to attribute others' work in your classroom remixes. What? A World's Fair Use Day? This annual event is held for one day in celebration of fair use, creativity, and remix culture. It's hosted by Public Knowledge, a Washington, D.C.-based public interest group that works to defend the rights in the emerging digital culture. Their claim to fame is that they promote innovation and the rights of consumers, while working to stop any bad legislation from passing that might slow innovation, shrink public domain, or prevent fair use. The Associated Press and Shepard Fairey settled their copyright dispute over the iconic Obama Hope poster that Fairey created from a photograph obtained off the internet that was distributed by the Associated Press during the 2008 presidential campaign out of court. However, there was never a ruling as to whether Fairey's use of the photo was fair use or copyright infringement. So I leave you with this to decide. Was there enough transformative use?